Here's a picture of me 3 years ago, back when people would make fun of my inward chest, and here's a picture of my chest now. I went from being embarrassed to take my shirt off because of my condition called pectus excavatum, which made my chest look kinda dented, to turning my chest into one of my strongest muscles, and it's still growing even 3 years later into my journey, as you can see with the stretch marks that I have right here. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I was able to grow my chest fast so you can start filling out your shirts and make your girl jealous. So before I dive into the exact exercises that I do, I'm just going to run you through my exact workout split that I'm currently running. So I'm in the gym 6 days a week, and this is basically how my split looks like. So on Monday, which is usually day 1, I train chest, shoulders, and biceps. Then on day 2, I would train legs and abs. And on day 3, I would do back and triceps. Then I would take a rest and I would do it all over again to complete my 6-day split. Now, I've already covered this in another video, but you might be wondering, why is he training his chest with his biceps? And there's 2 reasons for this. And the main reason that is probably the most important one for this video is because I want to make sure I'm training my chest with maximum intensity. If I train my chest with my triceps are going to be kind of used from all the pressing movements, which means it limits how much I can actually push weight-wise for my chest. But by keeping my triceps fresh for another day, I can fully focus on my chest, which means I can lift heavier and push harder without having anything holding me back. And this way, my chest gets all the attention and the energy needs to grow. And reason number 2, which is a lot more simple, is that the pumps look amazing. Whenever I have a chest pump, I also have a bicep pump from the front, which looks absolutely sick. But yeah, now that you know why I do it this way, let's get into the video. So I'm going to be splitting this video into 3 different parts. Part number 1 is going to be the exercises that help me grow my chest. Part number 2 will be about a few important tips to help you maximize your chest growth. And the last part is going to be about recovery, food, and the supplements that I recommend you use. Now, before we start, it's important to know that the key to building a balanced and aesthetic chest is to target all 3 parts of the chest. The first part, which is probably the most important one, is going to be the upper chest, which is also called the clavicular head. This is going to give you that lifted and fuller look. So if you want your chest to pop from the front of your shirt, this is the area you need to be focusing on. Now, the second part is going to be the middle chest, which is also called the sternal head. This part is going to add thickness and overall mass to your chest. It's also what makes your chest look full from the front. And then we have the third part, which is going to be the lower chest, which is also called the abdominal head. And this is the part that's going to give your chest that more squared off and defined look, especially at the bottom. And we're going to start with the most aesthetic and most important part of the chest, in my opinion, the upper chest. If you're looking for that superhero look, this is the part you're going to have to focus on. So exercise number 1 for the upper chest is the incline machine chest press. Honestly, this exercise is probably what's helped me grow my upper chest the most in the past year. And the reason why I like machines so much, and you're probably going to see it a bunch of this video, is because it's basically controlled throughout the whole movement, and I can really focus on going to failure without having that fear that the weight is just going to drop on me. And also because machines are great to really isolate the muscle you're trying to train and really get that contraction on every single rep. But yeah, enough yapping, here's how I do this exercise. First things first, which is probably one of the most important steps, is that I like to adjust the seats exactly at a point where the handles are perfectly in line with my upper chest. And the reason why this is important is because if it's not perfectly aligned, you're either going to be using your lower chest or you're going to use more of your front delt on the exercise. So what I do from this point, I just press the weight up. I like to squeeze at the top for 1 to 2 seconds, and then I control the eccentric, and then I pause at the bottom for 1 to 2 seconds again to really feel that stretch, which is where you're going to get most of the gains. I usually like to go for 8 to 12 reps on this exercise, and also I make sure I'm really focusing on the stretch and the contraction at the top of the movement. And of course, if you don't have this machine at your gym, it's totally fine. Here's a few alternatives you can do instead. So the first one is going to be the incline dumbbell press. This is a great exercise. I really like to do it. The reason why I prefer the machines over the incline dumbbell press is because you lose a bit of energy when you're actually like setting up the exercise. With machines, everything is already set up. You just have basically like the press. But whenever I'm lifting like the 125s or even like 130s at this point, whenever I was like my heaviest, I would lose a lot of energy just setting up the exercise. And also it's a bit more challenging to go to failure because I'm always afraid that the weight is going to drop on me. So another exercise you can do as well, which is also really good, is the Smith machine incline press. All right, so same thing, make sure you're focusing on the stretch and also on the contraction at the top. They're both really good alternatives. And now exercise number 2 that I like to do for my upper chest is low to high chest flies. So I like to throw this exercise sometimes into my training to get a bit more volume on my upper chest and also to really get a quick pump. It's a great exercise if you're trying to look good in the mirror. So here's how I do it. First off, to set the cables muscles around knee height. And from that point, I would just bring my hands up while keeping a slight bend into my elbows. And then whenever my hands meet at the top, I like to squeeze my chest for 1 to 2 seconds. And then after that, I would slowly control the weight back down and pause at the bottom for 1 to 2 seconds to also feel the stretch, which honestly makes a huge difference whenever I'm training my chest. For this exercise, I like to aim for 12 to 15 reps to really feel that burn. And also I don't like to go too heavy because again, it's a fly. I want to make sure I'm actually feeling the muscle working. So this is why I aim for 12 to 15 reps with the lighter weight. And now we move on to the middle chest. So the first exercise I like to do for my middle chest is the flat machine chest press. Honestly, this has probably been my favorite exercise to do for my chest. And this is honestly the exercise that's going to help you the most to really build that thickness in your chest. So here's how I do it. So exactly like I did for the incline machine press, I'm gonna adjust the seat so that the handles are aligned with the middle of my chest. Again, same reason, I wanna make sure that I'm really targeting that middle chest. And you know, if they're too low, I'm gonna be targeting my lower chest. And if it's too high again, my upper chest is gonna take over, which is not what we want with this exercise. And after adjusting the seat, all you have to do is to press the weight, pause at the top for 1 to 2 seconds, which is amazing to do with the machine, and then lower it back down slowly while controlling the eccentric movement. And at the bottom, I like to pause for 1 to 2 seconds to really feel the stretch before I press the weight up again. And exactly like the incline machine press, I like to do 8 to 12 reps for this exercise. And also I make sure I'm controlling the weight on every single rep to really feel my chest working and get the best results. So if you don't have this machine at your gym, don't panic, it's fine. You can do these alternatives as well and get similar results. So the first one is going to be a flat dumbbell press. It's a great exercise to build your chest. And the second alternative you can do is going to be the Smith machine flat press. And now exercise number 2 that I do for my middle chest is going to be the seated machine cable flies. So this exercise is going to be perfect to really isolate the middle chest and get a deep contraction. So here's how I like to do them. So first thing I would do is sit down and also make sure that the cables are level with my middle chest. I've already explained it, you know exactly why we're doing this. And then I would bring my hands together in front of me, squeezing my chest hard at the top for 1 to 2 seconds. And also what you want to do here is kind of imagine like you're trying to give a tree a hug, all right? So this is really important to make sure you're not like just pressing the weights up, but you're actually performing a fly with this exercise. And honestly, this exercise is probably the one that's going to give you the best stretch on your chest. So make sure you don't go too heavy. You definitely want to make sure you don't tear your pec on this exercise. So make sure you go light. And also for this one, I like to aim for 12 to 15 reps to really feel that burn in my chest. And same thing, like I said, I'm not going too heavy, I'm going light. So this is why I do a bit more reps to really go to failure. And again, I know a lot of people don't have this machine at their gyms. So what you can do instead is going to be the pec deck machine, which is a great alternative. It's basically going to be the same thing, or you can do dumbbell chest flies instead, which in my opinion, honestly, is not the best exercise because whenever you get to the top, you don't really feel that contraction. But if you don't have access to anything else, I would definitely do them with dumbbells. And now we'll move on to the lower chest, which is also called the abdominal head. So exercise number 1 that I like doing for the lower chest is going to be weighted dips. And here's how I do them. So whenever I'm doing dips to target my lower chest, I like to lean slightly forward while doing the exercise to really shift the focus onto my lower chest instead of my triceps. So I make sure I go deep enough to really feel a full stretch at the bottom of the movement. I pause for 1 to 2 seconds and then I press myself back up and squeeze my chest hard for 1 to 2 seconds again at the top before going back down for another rep. Now obviously in this clip you're going to see me using 135 pounds, which is 3 plates, or sometimes I like to go crazy and maybe up that to 180 pounds, but make sure you're using a weight that is good for you. If you're not able to add weight yet, doing them with your body weight is going to be perfectly fine, or even if you're not able to do them with your body weight, you can also do them assisted. And for this exercise, I like to aim for 8 to 12 reps while going to failure every single set. Now exercise number 2 that I like to do for my lower chest is going to be cable high to low flies. And here's how I do them. Alright, so first thing I do for this exercise is that I set the cable at the highest level, and then I would grab the handle of both sides, and from here I like to take 1 or 2 steps forward just to really create that tension on my chest. And then from that position, I just make sure that I squeeze my chest for 1 to 2 seconds while keeping a slight bend in my elbows. And then when I get to the top, I like to pause for 1 to 2 seconds to really feel the contraction in my chest, and then I slowly bring the weight back down and focus on keeping tension in my muscle and my chest. And then whenever I get to the bottom, I just pause for 1 to 2 seconds and then I do it again. And again, for this exercise, I like to do 12 to 15 reps, pretty much like the other fly exercises that I've done. The reason is, again, I'm not going too heavy on this exercise because the heavier I go, the harder it is to set up. And also because the heavier I go, the more likely I'm going to be to injure myself. So I make sure to keep the weight light and also aim for 12 to 15 reps while also making sure I'm going to failure on every single set. And yeah, that's basically how I train every single part of my chest. Now, obviously, I don't do 6 exercises every time that I train my chest. So an average chest workout would look something like this. So I would start off my workout by doing an upper chest movement, which usually is the incline machine chest press. Then after that, I would move over to my middle chest and do something like the flat machine chest press. And then after that, I would do something for my lower chest, which is usually dips, or I would do high to low cable flies. Now, if you really want to grow your chest, here's a few key tips that made a huge difference for me. And the first one is to feel the contraction, all right? I've seen a bunch of people that use heavy ass weights and they just throw it around, and this is not going to help you, all right? Trust me, if you want to see the best results possible, the best thing to do is to make sure you're actually feeling the contraction whenever you're doing an exercise, which means usually having to go with lighter weights to actually feel the movement. And honestly, this is going to help you get the best results over time. The second tip is going to be the stretch at the bottom of the movement. I've started doing this past year, and I can already tell you that this has been a huge difference in my chest growth. Of course, I use it with every single exercise, but especially for my chest, whenever I'm doing a pressing movement or like some flies, I've noticed that the stretch and actually like pausing for 1 or 2 seconds in the stretch position has helped me grow my chest the most. So make sure whenever you're doing that an exercise, regardless of if it's a press or if it's a fly, make sure you pause for 1 to 2 seconds in the stretch position so that you get the best results possible over time. There was a few studies that showed that in the stretch position, you actually get the most results. So yeah, make sure you let your muscles stretch on every single set to get the best results possible. Tip number 3 is to use machines, all right? This is probably something that I used to stay away the most when I first started training. I used to only use dumbbells, barbells. I've never used kettlebells before. But yeah, machines, I used to stay away from them, and I don't know why. I think I saw a few videos, people calling, people that use machine bitches, whatever it is. They're gonna help you build muscle if that's your goal. If you're just trying to get stronger, of course, you can use barbell or dumbbells. But if your goal is to grow muscle and get a bigger chest, you definitely want to be using machines. The reason is because first off, you're going to be able to get a better contraction on every single rep. Whenever I'm using machines at the top, I actually feel like my chest is still working. But whenever I'm using a barbell or a dumbbell, I can actually lock out my arms and the tension is pretty much non-existent at that point. So yeah, machines are going to help you build muscle faster. But yeah, with free weights, it's going to be a lot harder to go to failure if you don't have a spot. So make sure you use a bit more machines in your workouts. I'm telling you right now, it's definitely going to help you build muscle faster. And tip number 4, which is probably the most important one, not only for your chest, but just for training in general, progressive overload, all right? This is probably the most important principle that you have to keep in mind whenever you're training, is to make sure your workouts are harder and harder over time. Regardless of what it is, it could be weight, reps, less time between sets, but for me, I would recommend focusing on your reps and your weights. So the weights that you're going to be using, make sure they increase every single session. On most of these exercises, I like to do 8 to 12 reps, and the way I progressive overload is whenever I hit the top of that rep range, I up the weights again so I can drop back down to the lower rep range. Make sure you're doing more reps every single session, make sure you're doing more weight every single session, and if you're at the bottom of a rep range for the exercise that I'm giving you, just make sure you're doing more reps every single set. So the ways to do this is obviously with diet, which is going to be the next part I'm going to touch on. So yeah, if you're lifting the same weights for the same amount of reps for months in a row, obviously your chest is not going to grow. So if you want to grow, make sure you're tracking your workouts and that you're doing more and more every single workout. Now obviously none of this is going to be possible without having proper food, recovery, and nutrition, which brings me to the next part, food, recovery, and nutrition. So yeah, if you want your chest to grow, training is honestly going to be like 20% of the whole thing. The rest is going to be through your recovery and also having proper nutrition. So make sure you're getting 6 to 9 hours of quality sleep every single night. Eat in a caloric surplus if you're trying to build muscle, and aim to get at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight if you want to maximize your results. And lastly, for supplements, I recommend 2 supplements that I'm using currently. First one is going to be creatine, which is going to help you with strength and also muscle growth. And now the second supplement that I recommend is going to be Turkmax from HTLT Subs, which is real testosterone, unlike the fake stuff that other companies sell.
In case you've been living under a rock, you might not be aware that HTLT testosterone, the stuff from Uzbekistan, has been shown to be the only testosterone, the true authentic testosterone in the industry. And so Derek, Why didn't you test for the terkesterone and the ecdysterone? Failed to disclose what everyone actually wants to know. Obviously, if he had posted that it was 0.36, everyone would have called him out.
TurkMax has helped me and a bunch of other creators in building muscle and also recovery. So make sure you try it out if you haven't already. We also have a money back guarantee currently. So let's say you're not satisfied with the product, you get your money back, and also you get a $20 gift card on top of it from HLT subs. So there's like literally no reason not to try it. You know, try it out and you'll see for yourself. But yeah, if you want to try it out, you can use code Usain at checkout, which is going to give you 15% off. I'll put a link in the bio. But yeah, that's basically how I was able to grow my chest fast over the last 3 years. If this video helped you, make sure you smash the like button below, subscribe. And if you feel like you're stuck in your journey and need a bit more tailored help, you can apply to work with me one-on-one. I've been coaching people for the last 18 months online and I've helped a bunch of students get results like these ones. So if you want to have a bit more help from me personally, you can apply to work with me one-on-one below. And yeah, that's basically it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can let me know in the comments as well what you'd like to see next. Love y'all. See you next time. Peace.